Stuck in a red kryptonite-induced rage and with villains all around him. How will the Man of Steel make it out of this one? Well, let's hop into the pages of Superman issue number 27 and find out what happens next together, shall we? So then, as the book opens, we actually check on in with Lois. She's returned to work full-time as editor of the Daily Planet after having lost her Superwoman powers. Josh Williamson actually does a pretty good job explaining why no one at work thought it was weird that Lois took so much time off. They just assumed that she must have been working a story. Because even though she's editor, she still has a reporter spirit, and honestly, I like that a lot. Lois isn't the only returning face either, as it seems that Jimmy has got himself out of the hospital. His hands are bandaged, but thankfully he will be able to use them to take pictures again. Naturally, Lois still blames herself for putting Jimmy in that situation that got him hurt in the first place, trying to take a picture of Superwoman in the field. Jimmy is, of course, as forgiving as he always is, but it seems that his girlfriend Silver Banshee didn't exactly get the memo, and she says that if she sees Superwoman again, it's on sight. Though that seems like that's going to be a problem for another day. From there, we transition on over to Stryker's Island, where a red K-infused Superman is still rampaging through the halls. Luckily, help comes in the form of Marilyn Moonlight, who has seemingly been summoned by Lex Luthor, who also ran off. This will actually be the first of several moments throughout this issue where I raise an eyebrow, but we'll get to those when we get to them. Marilyn declares that she too is a protector of Metropolis, and she's willing to do whatever it takes to save lives, even if it means having to fight Superman. Though it looks like she's not going to have to fight him for long, because it seems that just being in his presence actually brings down Superman's red kryptonite-induced rage. No, I don't know how that works, it just does though. In fact, Mercy Graves, who's monitoring the situation from afar and who was heavily implied to be the one who actually kickstarted this rage in Superman, in the last issue is equally flummoxed, though she ends up getting distracted by the return of Lex. He's looking to abandon the city and start a new life, but before he goes, he wants to make things right with Mercy. He wants to offer her a choice: either stay behind and have full control of LexCorp and Supercorp, or run away with him and start a new life together like they always wanted. A nice dream to be sure, but one that we all know, if you've been paying attention, can simply only end in heartbreak for both of them. Now back over with Superman and Marilyn Moonlight, they continue to scour the city looking for Luthor, though they eventually end up getting sidetracked once they realize that Lex let Dr. Pharm and Graft go. Luthor had promised them a showdown, but instead the two managed to also make it back to the mainland and are now rampaging in a giant supercore robot. Superman jumps into battle to defend the city and fight off the robot, and it's while doing so he ends up hearing a message from Lex. One he once again delivers via a sound frequency that only Superman and dogs can hear, because again, we love a good Donner reference, don't we? Luthor really actually ends up bearing his soul in this conversation, saying that while Supercorp may have started as another way to entrap Superman and destroy him, at the end of the day, Luthor truly ended up surprising himself. His partnership with Superman ended up creating probably the happiest days of Luthor's life ever. For once, he really felt like anything was possible, like he could really create true lasting change and be celebrated for it for a change. But sadly, just as a leopard cannot change its spots, Luthor will be Luthor at the end of the day. The one enemy he couldn't outrun was himself. This is why he plans to leave Metropolis and never look back, but before he goes, he wants to give one last parting gift to Superman, a cure for his red kryptonite rage. Yeah, apparently at some point Luthor had cracked the code on helping fix Superman, and that special ingredient was actually Marilyn Moonlight herself. No, they don't explain how any of this works or how Luthor figured it out, but either way, Marilyn ends up blasting Superman with some of her moon energy, and somehow it totally fixes the problem. I don't know, maybe because she represents the moon and Superman represents the sun, or maybe because it's magic? I don't know, man, it really feels like there's a whole middle part missing here. It gets even weirder too, because helping Superman actually ends up breaking Marilyn's curse, meaning that she can actually walk in the sunlight again. I mean, alright, good for her, I guess. Feels like we got one flashback's worth of storyline about Marilyn and then nothing else until right now. But hey, if that rushed feeling character development bothers you, don't worry, because there's plenty to go around. Superman returns to Mercy, demanding to know where Lex has gone. Mercy Mercy has no idea, but she swears that she will stay true to Lex's ideals, meaning that she vows to continue to work with Superman even though she basically crowned herself the new top villain in Metropolis in the last issue, and before that tried to kill Superman with a Lex clone. I guess all is just forgiven now because Lex told her to do it. Jeez, woman, talk about having no agency. Oh, but that's not all. With the day seemingly saved, Superman takes this opportunity to go flying with Lois because, well, she can't do it anymore now as she has lost her own Superwoman abilities, and even though she felt really bad about it in the last issue and only looked to be putting on a strong face for her husband and the other heroes, in this issue she's pretty cool with having lost her powers. Hey, that was nice while it lasted, but I gotta get back to my regular job anyway. Again, feels like there's a whole massive middle part that got cut out. Superman also vows to find Lex wherever he's hiding, and we learn exactly where he got himself to. Apparently there's a Himalayan community deep within the mountains, wherein the populace communicates solely through sign language, meaning that Superman is probably gonna have a hard time finding Lex there. Now, that's where the main story ends, but there is one massive stinger in this issue that's actually quite important, not only for the future of this Superman book, but also for what's going on in Justice League Unlimited and this year's big DC crossover event. You see, we check back on in with Darkseid's Legion of Superheroes, who not only have they been torturing the Time Trapper, but we see they are also keeping prisoner Booster Gold, who, as we learn in short order after having fallen through the Omega Rift, has now actually been imbued with amazing Omega energy, making him one of the most powerful and most important beings on not one Earth, but two. Time Trapper frees himself from his bonds in an admittedly pretty cool-ass scene wherein they play with the idea that the Omega Legion knows that a Time Trapper exists, but they don't know that this Time Trapper is also Doomsday. As the comic comes to a close, Time Trapper escapes into the time stream, vowing to track down the World Forger, and again, if you want to know more about that, pick up JLU from this week. And so that was Superman issue number 27, everyone, and overall I thought this one was actually kind of a lackluster finale to this story, mainly right at the end where it feels the story had to rush to the conclusion to make way for the next big arc, which is of course setting up crossover between the mainline Superman book and everything that's going on in the Absolute books, and of course the big Crisis event coming soon. A real shame too, because I had been loving the House of Cards that Josh Williamson had been building all arc long, and here it feels like it kinda tumbles in places. The whole Marilyn Moonlight was the key all along revelation would probably have been really cool if they had actually explained it a little bit more, and I actually hope they do circle back and give us a proper explanation. Mercy's moral flip-flopping really had me confused because it definitely felt like they were setting her up to be the next big bad, to basically be Luthor's successor, which would have been a great direction for her character, and they still might, as Superman is still vowing to actually take her to court to try and win back his intellectual property. Then you have all the stuff with Lois as Superwoman, which when we stop and think about it really kind of did end up feeling like a blink and you miss it little story point, yeah? She had the powers, then she didn't have the powers, then she felt bad about it, but then she instantly got over it within the span of an issue. Again, I'm not saying I didn't like what the story was doing, I just feel like that they probably could have wrung a lot more material out of telling it. Ultimately, I think I'd feel comfortable giving this one a 6.5 out of 10. Not the strongest finale we've seen in the series so far, but I'm definitely excited to see what Joshua Williamson is going to be doing next with the Omega Legion. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest, that's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.